Hi subscribers and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dominic James Murray, CEO and founder here at Cameron James. Today we're going to be talking about QROPS pension transfers, QROPS meanings, HMRC QROPS list and QROPS Malta. Okay, so guys, if you already have a QROPS or you're considering a QROPS, feel free to book yourself in below for a free initial consultation on QROPS. There'll be no cost to this. We'll generally put together a free advice report for you to understand your situation and decide what is best for you. Okay, so to start talking about QROPS, we need to take a bit of a trip down memory lane. So QROPS actually came into the industry 4 years before I came into the industry. I entered the industry in 2010. QROPS came about in 2006. So rather ironically, QROPS came apart as legislation put in place from the EU about pension freedoms for people who were living inside the European Union to be able to transfer their pension to their country of residence at that point in time. So fast forward 16 years later, what we now have is a QROPS market which is far more depleted than it was when we started in, say, 2010. There was a huge amount of QROPS providers. There was QROPS provider in pretty much every jurisdiction in which you can imagine in the world. That has now really been reduced down to two key markets, which is Gibraltar and Malta, which I'll be going into in more detail at the end of this video. So what is a QROPS and why does it exist? So a QROPS stands for Qualifying Recognised Overseas Pension Scheme. This effectively means it is a qualifying overseas pension scheme that can accept transfers of UK pension assets. This is extremely important because your final salary, SIPP or defined contribution pot in the UK will not allow you to transfer to a scheme that is not a qualifying pension scheme. Any transfers you do make to a scheme which is not qualifying have huge taxes attached to it, but that very rarely happens because your trustee in the UK will do their due diligence first before transferring you to any type of pension, whether it be a QROPS or not. So that brings us nicely onto HMRC QROPS list. So the HMRC online has an ongoing QROPS list of people they know who have basically contacted HMRC and who continue on an ongoing basis to show them supporting evidence that they continue to maintain their QROPS status as a QROPS provider. However, the HMRC QROPS list, and they caveat themselves very strongly, they are not providing financial advice, and it's up to you to ensure that your QROPS provider has the relevant qualifications, the relevant regulation and the relevant licensing to continue acting as a QROPS provider. The majority of instances where QROPS providers have been removed from the list is because they were not playing to the rules of the UK government. The UK government, HMRC, TPO basically said, if you want to transfer out to a QROPS, that's fine, but it must in some way mimic what we have in the UK. So for example, access from age 55 in the UK is access from age 55 inside a QROP. When that changes to 57 in 2028, it's likely that QROPS may also change at that point in time as well. So QROPS, whilst you're removing yourself from the UK pension system legally, in terms of you're no longer regulated by the FCA, but you're regulated by the Malta Financial Services Authority, basically that's the only key difference. Everything else in terms of the pot has to remain the same. Well, lots of other things remain the same. You can have a slightly bigger PCLS of 30% instead of 25%, but generally speaking, the QROPS has to mimic certain points of a SIPP, and that is why a lot of QROPS providers have been removed from the list. So it's very important to note as well that just because a QROPS provider is on the HMRC list, this doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make them a good provider. It doesn't make them a bad provider. It just means they've submitted documentation to HMRC, and at this point in time, HMRC haven't found any issues with that company. However, you need to be very careful and do your own due diligence to find out which QROPS provider is most suitable for you. So it's really important when you're talking about QROPS to make it clear, QROPS get a very bad reputation. Why do QROPS have such a bad reputation? Well, the majority of financial advisors working for QROPS live beyond the United Kingdom, don't hold an FCA license, and typically are not qualified to a UK level of advice. They may use a QROPS provider to then put you into, say, an offshore bond, your Coulters, Old Mutual, Zurich, Generalis of the world, where that financial advisor can be paid a commission. And also they can put trail paying, commission paying funds in that platform as well to try and earn extra money. So this isn't necessarily the QROPS provider's fault. You've signed paperwork with your financial advisor to say, I've read all the terms and conditions. This is what I'd like to do with my financial advisor. If the QROPS provider turns around and says, oh, we don't think you should do that, you probably tell them to get lost. Who are you? You're the trustee, you're not the advisor on the account. I have a financial advisor. So it's very important to understand, and if you trawl through the emails, the forums online of bad QROPS financial advice, 9 times out of 10, well 9 to 9 times out of 10, I'd say it comes down to the poor advice of the financial advisor that the client used rather than the QROPS provider themselves. It can be argued that perhaps the QROPS providers weren't having enough oversight of what the assets were being invested into, and that has now been cleaned up dramatically. If you take, for example, the Momentum Malta Retirement Trust, the Momentum QROPS, they now have a far stricter process in terms of the dealing instructions with clients. Whenever you complete a trade, you have to say what the entry charges are, what the exit charges are. Obviously at Cameron James, it's always 0 and 0, but this is a new system, and they actually email the client at the same time so the client understands what's happening. So that covers off QROPS HMRC. Now we're going to move on to QROPS Malta, which in my professional opinion is the most sophisticated and well-regarded QROPS market still available in the market. At the time of recording, there's around 30 to 35 Malta-based QROPS on the HMRC list. Gibraltar comes in at a second close for me. There's around 30 QROPS providers currently operating in Gibraltar at the moment. The only time I would select Gibraltar with a client is when there's no DTA, double taxation agreement in place between Malta and the client's country of residence. I know off the top of my head from a couple of cases I've done in the past, South Africa is one country that does not have a DTA with Malta. Thailand is also a country, I believe, that does not have a DTA in place with Malta. In these few rare instances, we might actually recommend a client to utilize a Gibraltar-based QROP instead of a Malta-based QROPS. However, one of the big advantages of a Maltese-based QROP is that you have the full pension freedom rules which were given in the United Kingdom in 2015, meaning you can draw down your QROPS exactly like you can draw down a SIPP in the UK. I've actually had some clients, I remember one client in South Africa, he was in a Gibraltar-based QROPS and he said to me, Dominic, I have big issues, I have big debts, I need to access some of my QROPS capital. I would like to move it to a Malta QROPS. I'd like your advice on moving it to a Malta QROPS so I could access through flexible access drawdown some of my pension pot. Obviously we're not tax advisors, but I did a quick research and I caveated to him. I said, you do know there's no DTA in place between South Africa and Malta. He said, yeah, fine. I know some part of the legislation where I'll be able to claim it back, something, something, something. So to some extent, not my business. I caveated the client, I'm not a tax advisor. He's going to do his own research on that. Anyway, the client completed their withdrawal. They actually drew down the entirety of their QROPS pot and they got hammered for tax in Malta. But the client said to me they were going to deal with that and they were going to claim it back from South Africa or Malta, whatever it may be. So that's one of the big differences between Gibraltar and Malta. In terms of my personal preference, I just prefer Malta though. Like, okay, not many people know about it. Maybe you've seen it on the Queen from people traveling on the Navy ships and stuff back in the past. But Malta is an island which is focused very intently on QROPS. They effectively mirror themselves, in my opinion, on an FCA framework. When the FCA brings out something new, it's a very collaborative process, which is why they are now, I would say, they probably get 95% of all QROPS business probably goes through Malta right now. There are also other QROPS providers out there in other jurisdictions such as New Zealand. There's also a couple in Canada. Again, I have experience of both of these. Canadian QROPS, very limited. There's 2 or 3 QROPS providers in Canada which are half reputable, but inside the QROPS you're stuck with their funds. You have to buy Canadian-based funds from Canadian mutual managers. No offense to Canada, they've had many good things, I believe Justin Bieber, but they do not necessarily have the best funds coming out of Canada. I would rather be able to pick from the UK, Europe, maybe Canada and the USA. So QROPS in Canada is a very difficult transfer process. I've also had a client who transferred to a Canadian QROPS, then he moved to Spain. Portugal, sorry, to take advantage of the tax residency there. He wanted to move back to a Maltese QROPS so he could access the capital. The Canadian QROPS refused to transfer, despite the fact that in the terms and conditions it said you could transfer out to any UK pension asset following the transfer. So that was a very complicated case. Guys, I hope this has been a useful one for you in terms of QROPS, what they are, the HMRC QROPS list, and obviously QROPS Malta. If you have an existing QROPS scheme, please do get in touch. Let us know if you'd like some help. We can either A, help you reduce down your QROPS costs by moving to a cheaper QROPS provider, either in Gibraltar or Malta, wherever you're based. We can also look to change the underlying platform or bond provider, remove any commission providers and use low-cost, transparent providers. We can also look to change the underlying portfolio. Some investment funds in the market have TER, total expense ratios, of over 3%. 3.5%. Once you plus that to the platform charge, the QROP charge, the IFA charge, you probably need to make 5 or 6% growth per annum before you can even have any growth at all, which obviously is ludicrous. Here at Cameron James, all of our portfolios never exceed between 1.5 to 1.6%, including the platform, the IFA, and all of the funds. Guys, I hope this has been valuable. Please always remember to like, subscribe below with the red button, and share our content with anyone you think it might be valuable. And we really do look forward to speaking with you. You can book in below via Calendly, straight into my diary. You can also drop me a quick WhatsApp message just to say hi if you're not quite ready to book in for a full appointment yet. Guys, I hope this has been valuable. Let me know any other future videos you would like on QROPS, and I look forward to speaking with you as always on the next video. Thank you.